When it's all said and done, this team will be the 2023 CDL champs. What's on, guys? JHoyt back with you today. Welcome back to, I guess it's Call of Duty. It's not any gameplay today, but we're running it back with another full cam video for you, and we'll get to what it is here in a second. But with Call of Duty Champs coming up today or tomorrow, I think it's today, starting Thursday, we have an absolute banger of a first round matchup. We have lots of great games ahead of us, and it all starts later today. But we did our power rankings after Major 5. We did our pre-champs. If you haven't seen that, make sure you go check it out. But we are here with our official 2023 CDL predictions. So we are making this on June 14th, the day before champs. It will go up before champs starts. And we have our predictions. So we're back with it, right? Again, thank you to the person that commented, said they wanted to follow along, because guess what? We're back with another bracket, and we are here to follow along. We got the blue boxes, and of course, our yellow box there is the grand final. So hopefully this works how it's intended to, because I'm not the greatest at this thing. So, of course, let's start with our first round matchup. Now, we got to remember, this is Call of Duty Champs on LAN, in person, in Vegas. Now, if you guys haven't seen, other side, the Vegas Golden Knights, Stanley Cup champs, how about we add one more championship team to one of my teams, right? Let's hope to do that. But we got to start with our first round matchup. And we got to go back because we haven't seen some of these teams in a little bit, and especially now we have our top 8 teams from the regular season. So we have Atlanta Faze, Seattle Surge, Toronto Ultra, LA Thieves, OpTic Texas, Boston Breach, New York Subliners, and of course, but sure, and in last place, the Minnesota Rocker. So again, here we go. Round 1, Faze versus Surge. All to play for. Right, it's double elimination. Obviously, I wish there was more teams here, but we have a little bit of a wacky bracket. And, hopefully we don't have too many, fluke, I'll say, series where, the more dominant team just loses 3-0. We'd hate to do that, right, guys? Right? Okay, let's not do that again. But Faze versus Surge. Let's talk about it, right? Faze, obviously one of our best teams since the CDL has started, with the roster of Simp, BZ, Celium, and now Slasher. They've been a top team all year long. Surge has always had that upset potential, but I think it was all but, 4 or 5 tournaments in the core 3 of Faze's history with Simp, BZ, and Celium that they haven't finished outside the top 2. And I feel like that continues here, right? Faze has been our best overall team since the CDL has started with that core 3. It's going to be very hard to beat them. We didn't put, map counts in this, but if I were to put one, I'll say 3-0. And not that I really think it could be a really true dominating 3-0, because like I said, Surge do have that potential. But I feel like Faze convincingly wins this. Now, could Seattle come up with, a random map? Maybe. But official prediction, Faze Surge, 3-0 Faze. Next matchup, again, another banger. The top side of this bracket is a complete, side of death, if you will. Toronto Ultra versus the LA Thieves. A matchup that could go either way. Either team could 3-0, either one could 3-1, either team could squeak it out in a game 5. Right? This should be, I'll say it. This should be our match of the first round, at least. By far, this should be the best match of the first round. Now, when looking at these two teams, it's literally pick a side and just hope. Because every single time I've predicted a series that's similar to this, it always goes, like, no matter, like, there's no defined this team is better, right? Both teams have been two of our top teams all year long. They've been in our top 5 all year long. You know, almost every team has kind of been had a really rough stage, started 1-4, 2-3, and then went on to finish top 3 in the tournament. So, again, both these teams have the caliber to win the whole thing, and they both have the talent to win in the first round here. But we are going to go LA Thieves in this one. You know, not that I literally, flipped a coin, but, there's a coin here. May or may not have done it. But we picked LA Thieves in this one. Let's uncover that. Faze versus Thieves in the second round. Next matchup, winners bracket round number 1, third matchup. You got the boys of OpTic, Texas. Where are they? They're behind me and on my shirt. Well, let's try to forget about Major 5, as 0-6, didn't win a map, barely showed up to the entire tournament. We're going to forget about all that, right? Let's look at the positives. They've been a top team. They've been, I don't remember the exact map count, but it was something like 20-4 or something like that. Maybe that was series count or something since Ghosty has joined. Obviously, since then, that number has changed a little bit. But still, we got to look at the X factors of this team. With Shotzi, Hook, Dashy, and Ghosty, it's definitely hard to be like, all right, this team easy 3-0. We should move on to the next round super easy. Because if you look at recent form, you look at Major 5, you faced off against Florida in the first round, and you didn't win a map. You didn't even look like the same team. Now, I know there was some reports that say some players were sick or playing under the weather or whatever, but still, we still got to show up against a team like Florida, right? Every team has a chance to win every game. It's just if you show up or not, right? Now, Boston, on the other hand, we talked about this in the predictions video, that they just made a roster change. They benched Vivid for Snoopy, who is a young rookie, I think out of Mexico or something, that is unproven, and then you put him first matchup ever in the history of the CDL for him. He's joining into COD Champs, first round winners bracket against OpTic Texas. That's not a very good spot to put in a rookie. Now, hey, I don't know his history. I don't know, I don't really know much about him, so he can always surprise us. But on the other hand, you have OpTic Texas, and although, I figure Major 5 is a massive fluke, we're going to stick with them, right? We're going to stick with OpTic Texas 3-0. Now, main reason I say that is, again, we look at the caliber of what OpTic can be. You look at the new roster of Boston, you do have 3 rookies on that team, and I just don't see how that's a recipe for success for Boston. I just don't. So, OpTic 3-0, they move on to the second round. Next matchup, New York Subliners versus the Minnesota Rocker. Now, again, not that I want to call it so black or white, but Subliners did win our last event. Rocker barely has gone in much of the winning spirit at all this year. But they also have the talent to do it, right? So they benched Afro, they brought in Fame, they have Attach, Cammy, and Bance. You have the talent there, just something throughout the year did not click for this team. And I just don't feel like it's going to click anytime soon, especially given first round of champs. You got New York Subliners, who are our only 2-time winners this year, right? I don't think we had another one. But New York, again, has been a top 5 team all year long. And Rocker just haven't put it together. So the fact that Rocker made it in here, I just feel like it's going to be an easy matchup for the Subliners. And not to, again, make it so cut and dry, but I'm going New York 3-0, setting up a rematch, OpTic versus New York in the second round. Now, we do have our elimination bracket, or in this one, it does say losers bracket, round number 1. And something I just realized is all of these say match number 1. They don't actually say different matches. But either way, you have Surge versus Ultra. Now, again, this one could be a toss-up, right? If Surge play how we know they could play when they're at their best, with Pred in superstar form, with Sib in superstar form, with accuracy being your in-game leader and Mac filling in the gaps, you have a very solid team there. But on the other hand, you're facing off against Toronto Ultra, who, again, that matchup versus Thieves could be a little coin flip of who knows who's going to win that one. But in this one, we're going to go Ultra. We have to pick Ultra this one just because I feel like Ultra has been the better team all year long. And I feel like that team is just built for this, right? They've been in, what, 2 grand finals this year? 3 grand finals? They won, what, once? Major 3? Versus OpTic, pretty sure. But we're going to go Ultra. I'll say 3-1. Potentially, you know, Seattle steals a map. We'll go 3-1. Toronto moves on to the second round. Surge, we'll see you next year. Most likely, we won't see that roster again. If Pred and Sib do stay with the organization, they probably will have almost full control over who joins that team. Because if I was the Seattle management and realized that both those players are free agents, I'd offer them huge contracts and be like, all right, who do you want on this team? And then go get them. Or go attempt to get them. Or something. Because those 2 players are nasty. They're young. They're superstars. If they have 2 other good pieces around them, I feel like they can perform really well. But that would end the Seattle tournament this year. So we'd see them next year, of course. Ultra would move on to the second round. Next matchup, Boston Breach versus the Minnesota Rocker. Now, I mean, this matchup, does it really matter? Because if our predictions, you know, play out how we expect them to, it doesn't really matter who wins this one. Now, again, you got 3 rookies on the side of Boston. You have, you know, just a team that hasn't clicked in Rocker. Maybe this is the tournament they do it. Hopefully it's in this matchup that they actually start. And for the lack of actual caring about this matchup, we're going to go Rocker in this one. We'll go 3-1, I guess. I mean, like I said, this is another toss-up matchup, but not in the good way. Like, not as like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a banger of a series. It's like, who's going to show up more? Like, who cares? So Rocker, we do have them winning this one. We're going to say 3-1, and we'll move them into the next round. But in order to get their next round opponents, we got to jump back up to winners bracket round 2. You got Faze versus Thieves. Now, again, when you have 2 of the best teams all year long, you got to look at what has these 2 teams been doing recently, right? Faze just went to the grand finals again versus the New York Subliners. They end up losing in the game 7, but also they're Faze. And I know I keep using it as though they're Faze. They're so dominant on land. They've won, you know, a lot of the stuff they've been in the grand finals with and all that. But at the end of the day, like, they're proven winners on land and they're very hard to beat. Now, LA Thieves, obviously, I don't want to discredit them in any way. But when you look at the overall matchup, I think it was like 4-1, 4-2, maybe even 4-3. Faze did have the edge. Now, again, we're at champs. Just like the NHL playoffs, throw all the stats out the window. Having a team like Florida beat the Boston Bruins in the first round. If you don't watch hockey, that's a really good team versus a barely squeaked into last second team. And then you have, you know, Thieves, Faze, obviously 2 of our best teams. So not necessarily the same, but we're going to pick Faze in this one. Now, again, don't want to just choose them just for storylines, but Faze, very hard to beat on land. They're world champs for a reason. Obviously, Thieves in their own right, defending world champs of their own, but that's not going to be the last we see of them. Next matchup, we got the OpTic Texas boys versus the New York Subliners. Now, again, New York Subliners went to the finals of last major. They won it. OpTic, obviously, big fluke of a tournament for them. But again, it's COD champs. I feel like after that Boston Breach series, they should be warmed up, firing all cylinders, and should be winning. And I feel like they're to win yet again. I'll say, let's go 3-1. Maybe New York steals the map. Maybe even 3-0. You know, if OpTic plays to their full, true potential and they're at their best, it's going to be very hard to beat them. Now, I know I say that about a lot of teams, but still, again, OpTic is such an interesting story here because they did so bad last event, but I know how good they can be. Right? That makes sense, right? Makes sense. So that does set up our winners finals. Faze versus OpTic, obviously storylines. But that also does reveal our losers bracket round number 2 matchups. You got the Toronto Ultra versus Subliners and the Rocker versus Thieves. So they do end up switching and flopping around here. So we have Ultra versus Subliners. Now, I know Subliners went to the finals of our last event. But this is where I feel like Ultra are just going to kind of show up more and perform better. Like, I feel like that team is just better than New York. And I could be wrong. Again, coin flip where either of these teams can win. But we're going to go Ultra in this case, right? We'll predict a close series. Let's go game 5, 3-2. We're going to go Ultra to win it. And it should be a banger of a series. Like I said, similar to Ultra's kind of whole term at this point, should be a banger of a series. Next matchup, losers bracket round 2. We got Minnesota Rocker versus LA Thieves. And again, don't want to make it too cut and dry here, but we're going to go LA Thieves 3-0. You know, it's going to be very hard to bet against LA Thieves. They're one of our best teams for a reason. They have the superstar caliber team there. They're defending world champs for a reason, and they've been very hard to beat this year. So we're going to move them on to the next round. Into losers bracket round number 3. You know, it's definitely interesting when you look at our final 4 teams. You got Atlanta Faze, OpTic Texas, Toronto Ultra, LA Thieves. You have our 4 best teams. And I truly think, and this isn't just playing storylines, I truly think this has been our top 4 teams all year long. So it's only deserving that these top 4 teams are in the top 4. And although, you know, could we see a New York Subliners upset in the losers bracket? Of course. That would mean like Ultra gets knocked out. Or if somehow, some way, LA Thieves have an off tournament and they lose in the first round and then they get, you know, double first rounded. Or like, you know what I mean? Like it could go so crazy that we couldn't even imagine what this tournament could end up like. Ultra versus Thieves. Again, toss a coin, flip it however many times you want, ask a random number, you know, put a number behind your back. It's a toss-up, right? LA Thieves versus Ultra, gonna be a banger of a matchup, right? I think a lot of these will be really good once we get into even the top 6, I'll say. It's gonna be a banger of a series, banger of a matchup, banger of a weekend, and I'm gonna be very excited to watch hopefully most of these games. But of course, real life stuff does get in the way of those things, unfortunately. But we're going to predict the LA Thieves. I feel like, again, this team has just been better and has, you know, the edge, the gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. I feel like LA Thieves will win this one. As far as the map count goes, I don't know. Let's go game 5. Why not? Round 11, 1v1, pick 2 players. Let's just do it. So LA Thieves move on into our top 3. Now, of course, we got the winners bracket finals. We got Faze, we got OpTic. We know the history between these 2 teams, between these 2 organizations, between OpTic and Faze, not just the CDL era, but a long Call of Duty history between these 2 organizations. But this year, especially, OpTic has had their number. Now, I'm not just saying this because they're my favorite team. Little bit of bias here, but also if OpTic were to get to the grand finals of this tournament from the winners bracket any easier, this would be the run they would need, right? To beat Breach, who again aren't in the best position. Subliners, I would favor OpTic in that case. OpTic has the kind of the edge over Faze in this series. So it's going to be, again, it's going to be very hard not to pick OpTic here. But again, it's still OpTic Faze. It's still Atlanta Faze. They're still a great team. They're still championship contenders. And obviously, no matter who they face off against, they're going to be favorites. But in this case, we got OpTic Texas going to the grand finals. You know, we'll say 3-1. Maybe Faze steals away a map. But again, I feel like OpTic has just had their number all year, that unless something dramatically changes, I just feel like that's going to continue. So that does set up a rematch from winners bracket round 2, LA Thieves versus Atlanta Faze. And I just, again, flip a coin. Two absolute Goliaths of teams here. Two Goliaths of organizations, of franchises. You know, it's... How do you predict this one? Like, how? Right? But our prediction... Atlanta Faze. Now, I don't know what it is. Faze on land. That core 3, the new leadership of Slasher, like... It's very hard to bet against Faze. It's very hard to bet against LA Thieves. It's very hard to bet against Ultra. It's very hard to bet against OpTic. Even New York you could throw in there. I mean, like we put in our predictions, you know, these were the 5 teams we predicted, being Faze, OpTic, Thieves, Ultra, and New York. One of those guys was going to walk away with the championship. Given our top 4 teams are there. In this case, we're going Atlanta Faze. Setting up a rematch with OpTic Texas. And it's been long overdue. Long overdue that OpTic wins another championship. And they were definitely predicted to win it this year. You know, it definitely sucks that, you know, Scump's not on this team anymore and has retired, because I was supposed to go see him almost a month ago in Toronto. You know, trip ended up not going through. It would have been a great one. I would have got to beat Ben for the first time, who, if you guys have been following my channel, subscribed for a while, you know, one of my, I would say, best friends in, like, this entire world right now. Played games for, like, was it 7, 8 years? Some crazy, like, back to, what was it, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3 or something like that. So it's been a long time. But OpTic Faze, that story goes how far back? Right? A long time. OpTic hasn't won it since 2017. The white jersey there is from that year. You know, I did buy it. Has all the event wins. That's such a, I don't even think I mentioned, that's such a cool jersey that I have. I know it's obviously there's lots of makes of it, but it has all their event wins on there. I think the players are on there too. You know, it's definitely super cool. 2017, 6 years later, it's time for them to win, right? Vegas just won the Stanley Cup. It'd only be right that OpTic win too. If it is a best of 7, we'll go 4-2. If it's a best of 9, we'll go 5-2. I mean, whatever it may be, you know, that's what we'll go. But obviously, it's been a crazy year. Lots of ups and downs. Lots of storylines. Some of the greats retiring this year. A lot of the long-time, you know, Call of Duty players retiring. Scump. I think crimsix was last year. Likes the Apathy. I think, like, Slacked retired. You know, a lot of the old faces are not playing anymore. So it's been a crazy year. You know, Call of Duty been in a very interesting place for a while now. You know, we'll have some more crazy videos once the offseason starts. But for now, that's the predictions we're going with. OpTic Texas, I feel, you know, if it's going to be them, you know, if they can avoid, I will say, if they could avoid LA Thieves and maybe even Ultra, I feel like they could win this one pretty handedly, right? They've had Faze's number. You know, I feel confident against about subliners, feel confident against Breach. So, I mean, again, should be a great tournament. I'll be rooting for them all weekend long. You know, watch it from afar in some of them, but we'll be watching nonetheless. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know of your comments and thoughts and even your predictions down below in the comments section. If you haven't yet, or if you're brand new here, make sure to subscribe. Turn your post notifications on so you never miss an upload. And don't forget, you can always change your mind later. With all that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next one.